Over that way.
Wherever you'd like to.
Yeah. They will fit next.
Yep. Just, and then is that the last one there? Yep.
Yeah, I do, but.
Okay.
Or I can just stand up there and
There you go.
I think she wants to.
And there's space on this side.
Janine, all directions. For Janine.
Are you okay? You don't want to? Okay. Let's see.
It's okay. She's decked out.
Are you ready? ¿Estamos listos? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Buenas tardes. It's so good to see everyone here. My name is Janine Carambot Santoro, and I'm the Director of Equity and Inclusion for the City of Bethlehem. And today we're all really excited, and we're all gathered here for a special kickoff event in search of our sister city in Puerto Rico. We want to thank the Hispanic Center Lehigh Valley, especially Victoria Montero, who helped set this up, and all the staff for Hispanic Center. We see Councilwoman Rachel Leon is here, representing City Council. And so just to kind of kick this off, the mayor and I were discussing having a sister city relationship at the beginning of the administration in 2022. But we really began those individual and collective conversations with our Latino Advisory Council at the end of last summer. And they were thrilled at the idea of embarking on this quest for a sister city in Puerto Rico. And so they are leading this charge in a very community-driven way. And so at this time, I want to acknowledge all the members of the Latino Advisory Council. Many of our members are here and some are not, but I would like to read off all their names because they are so crucial to this community engagement. So Mary Colon, who is a professor at Moravian University. Michael Colon, the president of Bethlehem City Council. Cesar Cordova, who is a physical education teacher at Liberty High School. Tony Fernandez, who is the manager for community outreach at Northampton Community College. Eric Fontanez, who is now the supervisor of equity initiatives for Bethlehem Area School District. Carolina Hernandez, who is the assistant dean of students and director of community services at Lehigh University. Paula Johnson, who's the executive director at Northeast Community Center. Delia Marrero, who's the executive director of YWCA. Victoria Montero, who's many things to this community, but is the executive director of Hispanic Center Lehigh Valley. Olga Negron, who is also many titles, many roles, but is a former city councilwoman and also president of the Hispanic Center Board and an HGSK community liaison. Aurea Ortiz, who says she's retired, she's not really retired, and representing Patias, now retired from the district office of director, who is director of Representative Samuelson's office. Roy Ortiz, who's the president of Linfield Community Center. Javier Toro, who worked diligently at the Steelworkers Archive. Glory Vasquez, who's also from Representative Steve Samuelson's office. Guillermo Lopez, DEI consultant with the Guillermo Lopez Institute and Hispanic Center Lehigh Valley board member. And James Colon, who's a professor at Northampton Community College. I just want to give them a round of applause because they're amazing. So it should be known that we have 5 other beautiful sister cities in Greece, Italy, Slovenia, Germany, and Japan. And each one of those sister cities has a relationship that honors the history and the traditions of both Bethlehem and those countries. And so we are seeking to do the same thing in Puerto Rico. And the Latino Advisory Council really discussed the history of sister cities being between different countries. But in this case, as Puerto Rico is part of the United States, we honor the ties between these two cities in the same country. And so the speakers you'll hear from today represent a variety of voices from the Latino Advisory Council to comment on what this could look like. But first, it's my honor to introduce you to someone who acknowledges the importance of centering many histories as part of our collective narrative in Bethlehem, Mayor J. William Reynolds.
Thank you, Janine. It is wonderful to be here, and let's give everybody another round of applause, but especially for Janine for this amazing work to get us here today. Janine is correct in that one of the things that we focus on in the city of Bethlehem is we want to honor everybody's story. And we don't want to just honor them, we want to celebrate them. And what today is about celebrating not just our past, but also our future. Those sister city relationships that we have had over the years in the city of Bethlehem, they've added to the cultural experience of our residents, of what it means to be part of our community. And there is no better sister city experience for us to have than to have with a to-be-determined city in Puerto Rico. When we take a look at what the exchange has meant between Puerto Rico and the city of Bethlehem for decades. This is about the past, and this is also about our future. We have been very intentional about planning this process to not come up with what a lot of the details are going to be, not with what the exact relationship is going to look like, because it is very much a two-way street. It's not just what we are looking for here in the city of Bethlehem, but it's also what our sister city in Puerto Rico is going to be looking for. And we have been, as I said, very intentional about planning this process in a way that we really want the community to guide it. And what we're going to talk about here for the next several minutes is about what that process is going to look like, why we are doing it in the way that we are, and what it's going to mean for the different generations of people in Bethlehem that have a connection to Puerto Rico. I grew up in Bethlehem, and I have that story that people often like to tell of and think of as the Bethlehem identity, is that I grew up a son of privilege. I had 2 college professor parents, Moravians, the whole 9 yards. But we tell that story a lot. What we have not done throughout my life or throughout the life of Bethlehem is tell the stories of everybody in our community. And what this is about taking the first step in establishing that relationship and making sure that we are proud and we are celebrating that Puerto Rican heritage, and also coming up with ways that we can just add to those cultural exchanges and cultural connections, because as we like to say, we are building a city for everyone. And that means honoring everybody's stories and looking at what we share and what we can do together moving into the future. So once again, this is wonderful to be here today. Thank you again for everybody coming out, and we could not be more excited about where this is going. Thank you.
So next to speak, the City Council's first elected Latina council member, Olga Negron.
Buenas tardes. So I am so glad that we are here, that all of you are here with us today. As the Hispanic Center of the Lehigh Valley, it is in fact one of the first pillars that were created in this community, which all started by a group of Puerto Ricans that were in the neighborhood. Guillermo might remember that as a kid when his parents were mingling around, collecting people, and with $750 they were able to raise, they actually purchased this building, and they have keep on growing. And as you can see, it's thriving, and it is in a beautiful place. We secure a grant from the state that is going to do a diverse and a cultural workforce development center. So we are just in the starting preparation steps. I think we just signed the contract with the state, so hopefully you will hear more about that in the future, in the near future. Now, I like to share, the mayor talked about the importance of stories, so I want to share a little bit of my story because I know a lot of you might know it, but some might not. And I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, in Naranjito, Puerto Rico, and I left the island some 30 years ago. 25 years ago, moved to Bethlehem, to the Lehigh Valley. And I had two sisters already living in here. And the first place they took me was right here to the Hispanic Center. My youngest daughter was 4, so she was a WIC recipient. The Hispanic Center helped me put together my resume, my very first resume in Pennsylvania, and helped me get my very first job. And it was a job that I will never forget. Not just because I was making $6.40 an hour, but it really taught me a lot and helped build who I am today. I learned a lot about the community real fast, and I was able to connect so many, and still today I try my best to do so. Something that I always remember, I was on medical assistant, as you can imagine, with $6.40 an hour and 3 babies, a single mother. And I was getting food stamps, and I was trying to find my way through. The first time I went to a food pantry, it wasn't here at the Hispanic Center, we didn't have one then yet. And I remember for the first Thanksgiving, I was given a Thanksgiving box, and I was grateful, here I got food. I take the box home, and I have a turkey, and then I have a whole lot of stuff that I had no idea where they were. And something that caught my attention, there are two items that I will never forget. I took them with me to work the next day, and I said to my coworkers, "What is this?" It was cranberry in a can. I had never seen that before. And I said, what am I, why now? Why Thanksgiving? Do you put that in your turkey? And I'm like, what? In the turkey? And then how about the stuffing? A bag with bread? I'm like, that's for the turkey. And I'm like, what? You stuff your turkey with bread? How about plantain? It's not much better. So, needless to say, after 25 years here, I do eat turkey with cranberry. I do not eat the stuffing, though. I make mofongo and I stuff my turkey with mofongo. But, I think that the importance of knowing the culture and understanding and learning in order to have compassion and to have dignity when you give. You give to somebody not just because they're hungry and they don't have anything. You have to be very conscious about it. And at the Hispanic Center, that's something that I'm very proud, especially because it's very close to my heart that we have a food pantry that we make sure that is providing culturally appropriate food. And with that, another little story. Lehigh University students have been wonderful to us, helping us with the food pantry every week. And something that they, through the process, learned about the seasoning, right? There was like, sazon and adobo, and they're like, what the heck is going on? Everybody's asking for this. So, the staff, of course, explained the importance for us of this special seasoning now. So now they actually do fundraisers among themselves and go to C-Town because they know that's where we get it. And they buy sazon, and they buy sofrito, adobo, and they bring it to the food pantry. And I think that those are the steps that make the importance when you are culturally aware of the group that you're working with. And I think about becoming a sister city with any city in Puerto Rico, for that matter. And I think about the opportunities that we will have to perhaps bring some individuals from Bethlehem to Puerto Rico and bring some people from Puerto Rico to Bethlehem. So culturally, there's so much to learn, and we all, as community, could be better allies and could do a better job doing what we're doing if we know better. Many times, people are fast to jump to say, that person is a racist, look what they said to me. Well, the person might not know any better, If you've never been in contact with somebody that is from that culture, that is used to eat the beans this way. You go to the DR, they make sweet beans. Don't give sweet beans to a Puerto Rican because they're gonna go like, what? Why are you putting sugar in my beans? So being aware of the culture, the individuals that you're working with, it's so important. It will make your job better, and it will make that person receiving that service even better. And I went farther with my law firm HESK, I have the privilege to get to share their money with the community, which is fun. So I, of course, always reserve money for the Hispanic Center because I know the great work they're doing in here and how important it is to be supportive. But something else that we do every year, they were saying to me, okay, let's find families at the shelter and provide food, for Thanksgiving. And I remember, I'm like, wait a minute, I remember this. So what I did was I actually went to the shelter and I asked the director, talk with your the individuals that you have, the families, and ask them what an ideal Thanksgiving meal would look like for them. And I went on to the grocery store and I bought collard greens, black-eyed peas, smoked ham, you name it. Why? Because I was giving them what they are used to, what is familiar to them. And I think that those are pieces that because I lived it and I, didn't know what jelly cranberry was, I realized how important it was to make sure that anything that we do in our daily work, when it's working with a different culture, let's learn about it and appreciate and work to our job better. So I am excited. I can't wait to start filling out the survey and sharing it around so we can move forward and choose and have a great plan for the future of Bethlehem and Puerto Rico. Thank you.
Thank you, Olga, for your story. We now introduce you to Michael Colon, our first Latino president of Bethlehem City Council.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight or today.
But I'm going to tell a little bit of a story too, to Olga's story. So when I started dating my wife a number of years ago, every time we'd go out anywhere, to Wawa, the movies, the grocery store, I'd always run into someone, an adult, and she'd say, "Who was that?" I'd say, "That's my dad's cousin." To the point where she went, "How many cousins does your dad have?" And I had to say, "I don't know, over 100. Eric's father and my father are first cousins. True story. That's how the lineage runs deep. My grandfather's name was Felix Colon. He came to Bethlehem from Salinas in Puerto Rico many, many years ago. My grandmother's name, and some of you here knew my grandparents, my grandmother's name was Petra Colon. Petra and the Fontanez family were from Corozal. They came to Bethlehem for opportunity. Not only them, their siblings, and they raised families. I'm here because of them. Eric's here because of them. Eric's brother is here because of them. And not just our families, so many. When we talk about the history and the culture of Bethlehem, we have to talk about the influence of Puerto Rico and our Puerto Rican neighbors, friends, co-workers who have come here for decades. Whether it was for the Bethlehem Steel, which helped build not only parts of this country, but all over. Our school district, which is populated by so many, a lot of my cousins, Puerto Ricans that have come here and given their influence, small business owners, and so many leaders in the community. So this opportunity, one that when Mayor Reynolds and when Janine had brought it up, was such a good idea. I thought, why didn't anyone think of that sooner, right? This is the kind of thing where you go, how did we never think of that? But it's an opportunity to further that bond between Bethlehem and the island. And it's going to be up to us as a community, to our families, our neighbors, our friends, our co-workers, to fill out the survey. Whether it's taking the time to fill out the paper survey, doing it on our phone, doing it on our computers, helping someone do it, so that we could get as much information as possible, so that when we get together again in a number of weeks and review all this information, that we could see where it is that's going to be the best fit. And I'm very interested to hear everyone's arguments for why their hometown and where their families came from should be the city that we pick. But again, I thank everybody for coming out. Y cuando hablamos de la historia y la cultura de Bethlehem, tenemos que hablar de los miles y miles de gente que vinieron de Salinas, de Corozal, de Ponce, de Bayamón, de todo, de Patilla. Y porque si la influencia de Puerto Rico, no tenemos Olga Negrón aquí en Bethlehem. No tenemos Eric Fontaine. No tenemos los miles de gente en la escuela, en el Bethlehem Steel, en el gobierno, y que son los vecinos de nosotros. So I thank everybody for your time today. Thanks for coming out, and do the survey. Have a good day.
Thank you, Michael, so much. Next is Guillermo Lopez, former Bethlehem steelworker, board member of Hispanic Center Lehigh Valley, and the founder of the Guillermo Lopez DEI Institute and Latino Leadership Alliance of the Lehigh Valley.
Thank you, Janine. Thank you, Mayor Reynolds, and dignitaries. Thank you all for being here. I'm like a spinning wheel of stories of what I can tell, and you know, I'm in the closing years of my 7th decade, and so I got a lot of stories, but I'll only tell a few. And the first one is, because you know, the truth of it is I stand on the shoulders of my parents, and on that particular generation that came to this. And they made sure I'm very Puerto Rican. They made sure that I know who I am, where I come from, and where I'm going. I'm exactly what my ancestors wanted me to be. So I'm thinking of one story in particular. Holy Infancy, the Puerto Rican Club, and this center was like a triangle, you know? It was just this connection, and that's how it worked. And in Holy Infancy, we would only do service in the basement. You know, was there a little racism involved? Maybe. But that's not the story. The story is when we finally got to go upstairs, I remember us marching from the basement, going up the steps, and there was like a curve going up. And as we were taking that curve, my mom turned to me, pinched me in my arm, and said, "Don't mess this up for us." My mom had so much pride for this community, and she wanted to make sure that we got it right. And then I remember when I worked in the steel mill, I remember going to this place that if you haven't been there when it was in its heyday, you just can't imagine how gargantuan this place is. I'm an 18-year-old, and by the way, I spoke 2 languages fluently, and I still couldn't communicate with the men that worked there. I spoke Spanish fluently, I spoke English fluently, but they spoke Pennsylvania Dutch. And we just couldn't communicate, and finally, on lunch break, they could smell my food and they would go, mmm. And they would show me their food and I would go, mmm. And we'd teach each other how to curse in each other's languages, and that's just sort of how it grew, you know? And I think the last story I'll tell is how being pigeonholed in one particular place in Bethlehem Steel, most of the Puerto Ricans here wound up in the coke works. Although there was something not nice about that, there was something beautiful about that community when they were all together, that they were able to organize. And when they would share their stories about, you know, they told that the school told me that my son is not smart enough to take Spanish. And then another one would say, they told me the same story. What's up with that? And before you know it, there was a cadre of workers that were all of a sudden sharing the same story from the same school about their children, that they weren't smart enough to speak their native language. And so they organized, and it came out of that particular place. And out of that, I remember things like partnerships with Lehigh. I remember holding the school district a little bit more accountable. And let me say this about the particular people that I come from: they don't make noise a lot. They were of the generation that said, let's not make too much noise, I'm not sure they know we're here, right? And we were a little different. We were, no, we're here, and you're gonna like us whether you like us or not. And so that's sort of how things were. And I have to say now, like I said, I'm closing in my 7th decade, that I have learned to love this city. I have learned to look at it in the way that it was originally meant to be, that when the Moravians came here, they partnered with the indigenous people, they're buried side by side. That gives me a thought that there is brightness in the future with how it is that we accept people. So I think this is a natural transition. I think it's perfect, and I think Corozal is the town to have.
Thank you, Guillermo. And for those of you that are watching, you can't see in the background, everyone has a sign for like who they're rooting for, but so you'll see pictures around after this. But finally, but not least, we welcome Eric Fontanez, Bethlehem Area School District Supervisor of Equity Initiatives.
Well, I don't know. I feel like I could just have Michael come back up and just give the speech for me. He represented our family, so that's good enough. No, but bienvenidos and welcome to this wonderful announcement of, beginning the process of identifying a relationship with the city in Puerto Rico. From the moment that this went public, you could just feel the excitement in the air. People started sending me messages. I'm going for this city. I'm going for this city. I'm on the Corozal train. But the big thing is, the question is, ¿por qué, right? Like, why? Because the state of Pennsylvania surpassed 1 million Latinos living in this Commonwealth, making it the fastest growing ethnic group. Because Bethlehem's population is approximately 30% Latino. Because the BASD's total student population is 46% Latino. And finally, the regions of Easton, Reading, Bethlehem, Allentown, Lancaster, Lebanon, York, Harrisburg, Gettysburg, and all those surroundings are home to more than 50% of the state's local Latino population, and that's huge. Although the term Latino in these percentages include multiple countries and territories, Puerto Rico is still, we have a large population of Puerto Rico in the Bethlehem community. Having a sister city in Puerto Rico will inspire our youth and hold lots of possibilities such as cultural, business, and educational opportunities. So I'm going to give you an example. There was a city, Cork, Ireland, who partnered with San Francisco. And in 2014, 5 middle school students and coding experts went from Cork, Ireland, and visited San Francisco. They exchange coding insights, other STEM activities, and by combining the youth education and technology, the exchange opened up new doors for everyone that was involved. The Irish students had the chance to teach their peers at school in San Francisco how to code and to also learn from senior engineers in the coding field. This digital sister city exchange was celebrated throughout San Francisco and through Cork by community members, parents, teachers, and students alike. This is just one example of the opportunities for our youth to not just learn about, but experience the cities, cultures, religions, and traditions that will create empathy and understanding while leading to more resilient, global-minded citizens. I read somewhere that the connection between siblings is believed to be stronger than any other kind of bond, friendship, or partnership. They look out for one another, they learn from each other, and most importantly, they protect each other no matter what. And if my brother doesn't agree with that, we have some big issues. This bond will make this relationship with Puerto Rico so much stronger no matter what city is chosen. The sister cities can support each other through business, tourism, trade, and more. Whether you are Puerto Rican or not, remember that Bethlehem is a diverse community, and this is an opportunity to make new friends, learn about cultures, and embrace our relationship with Puerto Rico. Para concluir, I'm going to leave you with a quote from Ludwig Wittgenstein. Don't think he's Puerto Rican. Los límites de mi lenguaje son los límites de mi mundo. The limits of my language are the limits of my world. So let's go beyond our limits and make a difference for our future. Gracias.
Thank you, Eric. So as you've heard from our speakers today, ultimately this is about honoring our history and creating opportunities for our future. It's about honoring our past, those that came to Bethlehem from Patillas and Corozal in the 50s to work for Bethlehem Steel, honoring people like Don Ismael Garcia, who founded this place that we're standing in, the Hispanic Center Lehigh Valley, and also still sometimes called the Council of Spanish-Speaking Organizations, and the founding of the Puerto Rican Beneficial Society. It's about honoring the Borinqueneers, the 65th Infantry Regiment of Puerto Rican soldiers who served selflessly in both World Wars and the Korean War. It's also about honoring our present, like our local music group, Talento Local, whose dancers and singers fill us with pride every single time we hear Que Bonita Bandera across Bethlehem and the Lehigh Valley. It's about creating opportunities here and in Puerto Rico for those that are still in the midst of recovering from a pandemic and natural and man-made disasters which have affected those on the island. And finally, it's about looking to the future with our children in mind to help them know where their roots are and offer opportunities to those that want to know about Puerto Rico, as Eric so lovely said. He said it so lovely. But also to help our Boricuas that want to come to Bethlehem for new opportunities and to call Bethlehem their home as well. And so to be clear, this process is not a competition. We know that whatever city is picked is truly a victory for all Puerto Ricans in Bethlehem. And I just want to add, Audia called me earlier and she's like, Janine, if I get too excited, she's like, just reel me in. And I'm like, no, today is the day to be excited. You can be excited today.
No, Junia, I really need to say this. And well, you remember, I was the first school board director, Latina, okay? So, and I love education. In Puerto Rico, we'll win, regardless what city is, because it's our heart. We help every city. Corozal, presente. Ponce, presente. Patillas, presente. Bayamón, presente. Tanajita, presente. Y todo el mundo por ahí para abajo. So, for me, Puerto Rico is in the heart of everybody. So, thank you for this unknown opportunity that I have. But I take it for granted. Thank you so much. You take care.
Thank you, Audia. I know it's taken you everything to hold back. You don't need to hold back today. So today serves as a kickoff for our survey and gathering your opinion on selecting a sister city. And the idea behind the survey was to allow for engagement from our residents that have their own opinion, history, and ideas. And that survey opens today and will be posted on webuild.bethlehem-pa.gov by 6 o'clock. But it's already available here at the Hispanic Center on tablets and on paper. And the survey will be open until April 30th. So we encourage everyone to take it. After we get the results, we invite anyone who's interested to come back here to the Hispanic Center on May 31st from 5:30 to 7 o'clock for some good Puerto Rican food and to talk about the results to help us select a sister city. We'll reach out to that city afterwards and potentially cities, could be more than one, right? To see if there's an interest in creating a commission both in Bethlehem and in that sister city. And then finally, we will celebrate our formal partnership together here in Bethlehem. So we have paper surveys, we have tablets, English and Spanish, and some traditional Puerto Rican treats in the back and some drinks. And we just want to thank you all for coming today to celebrate with us and be a part of the process. And so now to give closing comments, we welcome back Mayor Reynolds. Thank you.
Thank you, Janine. And I think I need to start by, I asked for everyone to thank the members of the board that helped to bring us here today. But I think I need to take a step back and also thank the leaders that are here and that are in the audience. Something that Guillermo had said reminded me that, we have made as a community progress in placing Latinos in positions of leadership that they weren't there 30 years ago. And Guillermo, you were talking about ending your 7th decade or, and things like that. But Guillermo was great friends with my father. And I remember my dad telling me probably 25 years ago that Guillermo was pushing to change the city. And he would be the first person to tell you that he's not the only person doing that. I say that every day, is that we have thousands of people that wake up in the morning and want to create a better community. But the work that has been done by everybody up here and our leaders in the Latino community over the past couple of decades have put Latinos in positions that they weren't in 30 years ago, within our school district, within our city, with our private businesses, with our nonprofit community. And that is a credit to that lifetime of work of Guillermo and Olga and Audie and everybody else up here. And I think we need to just pause for a second and thank them for that work that we've been able to get here today. So I would just finish, well, first is, I do not have an opinion. So no more gifts, no more emails, no more texts. I'm not taking the survey. I'm not voting, so, same thing. But this is really, it is really a special process. And I think one of the things that every speaker talked about today is it's not about just whatever city we end up having that relationship with, but it is about that process of building engagement, building community, and celebrating who we are. As we always say, we want people to be whoever they want to be in the city of Bethlehem, and we are not just going to love them, but we are going to celebrate them for that. And a part of that is leaning into telling everybody stories and creating a sister city relationship here that will mean different things to different people for generations. And that is the most special thing you can do, because we can't solve all the problems. We can't do everything that we need to do today. But what we can do is we can set up those structures and bring people together. So as we've inherited things from our parents, we pass them on to our children, and they pass them on to their children. And we just create a culture of community in the city that we can be proud of. So with that being said, thank you again. This was awesome, and start your voting. Running around, I'm sure.